reflect what he said? And I look at three questions. One of them is obviously, what evidence is there that the New Testament autographs, the original copies, the original handwritten stuff that's in the New Testament, was mass-produced and therefore copied accurately at that time, and then copies of those copies was done accurately over time. So the printing press didn't come about to about 1450. So that's 1,400 years of hand copying before that of any of the New Testament documents. So one of the questions I look at in my book is, what evidence is there that there's been good copying fidelity? We were talking about copying fidelity before of DNA, just a little bit. Now we're talking about copying fidelity of the New Testament. One of the other questions I look at is, what evidence is there that people alive in Jesus' time were able to record what Jesus said when he said it? I remember so clearly my schoolmates saying, but John, when people were with Jesus, they were just illiterate shepherds. They didn't know how to read, they didn't know how to write. And I still hear people saying this. So if they didn't know how to read, they didn't know how to write, then whatever Jesus said, what hope did they have of remembering it correctly? And it probably all got garbled until someone many decades later decided to start writing it down, and they think what happened is a few blokes sat around a campfire, and this is decades later, since Jesus was crucified, and they think, do you remember what he said about vines and sheep and stuff like that? You know, wasn't there a cheesemaker in there somewhere? And so anyway, so I look at that question, were people able to record accurately what Jesus said when he said it? And this is a common question, just like the copying. Many non-Christians have this as a question. The third question I've come across, and Christians have these questions too. They're quite reasonable questions to have. And so the other question is the people who wrote it were obviously passionate about Jesus. Is that right? Well, yeah, the people who wrote the New Testament were passionate about him. They were so passionate they died for him. So people say, well, therefore they were biased. So is there any evidence that their bias didn't get in the way of telling the truth? So these are questions that people have. These are questions to do with